All right, well, get ready. Number 16, Alabama, traveling to take on number 12, Auburn, in what will no doubt be the most featured game of a very busy college basketball slate tonight. But any room at the current number, any value to making a wager on that game? We're going to find out as we welcome in three of the absolute finest handicappers at WagerTalk.com. Nobody does college basketball like these three guys as we welcome in double R1L Steve Merrill in the house, Mr. Bryan Leonard, ready to roll, as is Rob Vino, ready to dive in. Gentlemen, a great slate of games here tonight, some huge big name matchups, but I think it's also important for those that might just be joining us here or just checking out college basketball to remember that the most popular games on the slate don't necessarily correlate to the best value on the slate. And to help illustrate that, we'll welcome in Steve Merrill, because you're going to talk about, Merrill, one of the Big East matchups between two very well-known teams, Creighton and Providence. But any value in this game on either side when you looked at it here this morning?
Yeah, I was going to say, for big game breakdown, I thought this was one of the better games. I thought maybe you were going to throw me a curveball and make me talk about High Point,
Nope.
UNC Asheville or something, or thought I was Adam Trigger or Brian Power by mistake. But no, we're not going to. The Gold Sheet will have one of the under-the-radar games, I believe, a little bit later here in the show. This is a good matchup, and something I always talk about here in February is I love second meetings, and I don't want to use the word revenge because, once again, it's not about revenge. It's more about the fact that we have a second meeting, we have a nice box score to dig into the first time the teams played. And that does apply here with Providence and Creighton. These teams played a month ago on January 6th at Creighton. Creighton won 69-60, but failed to cover as an 11-point favorite. They were up by 7 at the half. They did cover the first half line, but not the game. And it stayed well under the 141, just 129 total points. And the main reason is because Providence did not shoot well at all in that game. They got outshot 48 to 37% from the field. Yet they outshot Creighton by one 3-point attempt and 35 to 30%. So Creighton won the game at home by 9, despite hitting just 30% of their three-pointers. And neither team got to the free throw line very often. That's the reason the game stayed under the total. But Creighton also had 13 turnovers. Providence only had 8. On the road, you would not expect Creighton to necessarily shoot better or have less turnovers, but that probably will be the case tonight. And meanwhile, Providence should play better at home as well. They're also coming off a bad loss at Villanova when they put up only 50 points. But it was a tough stretch of road games over the last week. They had to play at both Connecticut and Villanova. So on the surface, does look like a bounce-back spot for Providence, and they do theoretically have that revenge motive. And they are 11-2 straight up at home. And one thing I like about the revenge motive is when we're playing strong home courts, but I also like to have the better team, and I don't think that's the case here, because Creighton is the better team, and they're coming in off a loss against Butler. In fact, this is the first road game they've had since about 2 weeks ago, and it was a high-scoring 99-98 loss as a 10-point favorite. So a bad loss by Creighton should have them fully focused. So although the revenge spot theoretically would set up for Providence, I just don't know if that applies here. And I think the total is probably the best way to go. And we have seen a money move to the over. Opened 141.5. It's up to 143, even 144 now at some sharp books. And I agree with the over in this game. I pointed out that neither team got to the free throw line in the first meeting. I think that's a little bit of random variance. Providence also was just 50% shooting from the free throw line. Creighton only 30% from three. And it still only stayed under by about 10, 12 points. I look for much better shooting tonight, and I look for a higher scoring game than expected. Let's not worry about the revenge of the side. Let's look at the over between Creighton and Providence tonight at 8:30 Eastern.
All right, there you go. Looking at the total in that Big East matchup. And next up, Bryan Leonard in the house, jumping in here. You too are going to take a look at another Big East battle with two teams that very well known here, great histories, both Villanova and Xavier. And to Steve's point, you got a little something for everybody in this one here, right? You got revenge, certainly. You got two teams that haven't exactly been great this year, kind of disappointing. So, but again, doesn't necessarily mean there's value in the game. What did you find when looking at it?
Yeah, I agree. The best time for me to back a good team is when they've had a string of bad performances. And, the records of both these teams are 12-10. So people are going to look at it and not think much of it. But these are two of the top 40 teams in the nation. And when I find a team that's very good like that has been on a bad run, I want a reason to buy on them. And that's what we got out of Villanova last time out. They did have that string of bad performances, but they broke a 5-game losing streak last time out, beating Providence 68-50. These two teams met 5 weeks ago at Villanova in a 66-65 victory for the Wildcats. The line on that game was -8 in favor of the host. Now, after switching venues, Villanova's catching 3 at Xavier. Despite a 12-10 record on the season, this is still a very good Villanova team, and the line has moved 11 points based on different home courts here. And I think there's some value here on playing Villanova. Xavier comes in, as I mentioned, with the same 12-10 record, but are leading tonight's opponent in league play 6-5. So Villanova's behind them in league play by 1 game. Xavier enters tonight off back-to-back impressive wins, including an 88-77 victory over St. John's, followed by a blowout of our favorite guinea pig, DePaul. They win that game by 25 points. So I think Xavier right now is riding high and mighty against a team at Villanova who's starting to turn around. I want to bet on a good team when they're just starting to turn it around. Not only are they a good team, but the lines makers and the betting public thinks less of them in that regard. So we're getting better numbers here. Our rankings have the Wildcats 10 spots better than the Musketeers, and yet they're an underdog in this game. So this line should be closer to a coin flip, in my opinion. Let's take the team ready to go on a positive run, catching the generous spread in my account. We're getting at least 2 points advantage in the line here by playing on Villanova, and we'll take that.
That is what we call value, people, and that's what you've got there in that game with Villanova taking on Xavier here tonight, and Rob Vino in the house next up. All right, Vino, we teased it in the open. Without a doubt, the game of the night, right? Couple of top 20 teams in the SEC. You got Alabama traveling to Auburn. We've also seen, looks like some money, early money this morning on Alabama coming in, pushing this down to about 5.5. So I think of these two things. I think total, Vino, the market's moving on the side. What do you think we're going to get here tonight?
Well, I shortened it, Joe, and played first half. This is a repeat of a game played just 2 weeks ago. Wednesday night, 2 weeks ago, these teams met in Alabama, and I actually played it the same way that night. I played Alabama, the home team, first half -2. They led 44-30 at halftime in that game. It was really never in doubt in that particular contest. They just absolutely blitzed Auburn from the get-go. Auburn had that deer in the headlights look. Was a big game, obviously, like tonight, very well anticipated or strongly anticipated. First half opens and Alabama outscores Auburn 24-3 from the 3-point line, which paved the way to the 14-point halftime lead. Auburn kind of settled in. Second half, they won the second half 45-35. The 35 points that Alabama scored, 14 came from the free throw line. They only scored 21 points in 20 minutes from the floor in the second half. They shot 23% from 3. Auburn's great defense shut them down. Alabama couldn't do much. They hung on for dear life and won that game. I think they laid 3.5, wound up winning by 4. But now it's a different home floor. Auburn at home in the first half has been a moneymaker deluxe, 9-2 against the spread in 11 home games in the first half this year. 3-1 against the spread in SEC play. 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the spread in SEC play first halves. And the only one they lost was Saturday's game against Vanderbilt, where they laid 10.5 in the first half and won by 10. They've won 6 games at home against either SEC opposition or what I would call, I guess Ken Palm ranks them both in the top 75, but pretty good non-conference teams, right? They beat USC and Virginia Tech here in the earlier months and covered both of those first halves. So against those 6 teams, SEC 4 teams, those 2 non-conference, 5-1 against the spread. And the winning margin The lowest winning margin was 8. Anywhere from 8 to 19 points they've won by in the first half. So it gives you the idea, paints the picture that they come out quick at home. They've done it all season long. If I include the lesser foes that they've played at home here, like I say, the ATS string was 9 consecutive until Vanderbilt the other day, where they only lost by a half a point. Alabama, the other half of this equation, not so good on the road. They haven't been there a lot, been a lot of neutral sites, been a lot of home games, but not a lot on the road. Only 5 road games, true road games, 4 inside the SEC, and they're only 1-3 against the spread. And as recently as Saturday, just a few days ago, they were blown out, or excuse me, last Thursday, I think it was, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, they were blown out by Georgia in the first half. Georgia was crushing this team, I think 44-27 or something in the first half, and Alabama used a big second half to big 10 minutes actually to end the game and get that win. So they're not exactly showing any form walking into other people's buildings from the opening tip. Got 2 opposite ends of the spectrum there. I like the Auburn side for that reason. It's basically the same matchup fundamentally. I don't think we have to break it down a heck of a lot. Auburn, as far as SEC play is concerned right now, they're the number 1 offensive efficiency team. They're the number 1 defensive efficiency team. On the defensive end of the floor, Auburn in SEC play, the best defense against 2-point shots, the best defense against 3-point shots, the best block shot team in the conference, and the best team at forcing turnovers. That's pretty tough to overcome. Don't let you make 2s. Don't let you make 3s. They block your shots. Hello, Janai Broome, the center from Morehead State, who transferred over a couple of years back, and they steal the ball from you, or they force you into turnovers. Tough. Alabama's dependent upon the 3. I think that the second half of their earlier meeting probably gave Auburn a lot of confidence that they can stop this 3-point attack. So from that perspective, I think Auburn comes out of the gates really quick here, and maybe Alabama shows their, recent form. It does not. It's a huge game in the standings. Brian was talking about Big East standings before. We'll talk about SEC standings here. Alabama sits on top at 8-1. Auburn 7-2. So Alabama's already got 1 game in hand because they beat them earlier. A win here by Auburn would even things up. So it's a big game for them. I think a sense of urgency is there for Auburn. A lot of factors here that kind of point towards Auburn early. I don't want to trust it late. They could get there late, but I'd rather be in on the early side where they've shown the ability to dictate right off the opening tip. Play Auburn first half -3.
All right. They broke, don't fix it here. First half play there from Rob Vino, and it's that kind of night here, guys. It is a loaded slate of games across the board. We'll have 3 best bets coming up here, but I do want to extend an invitation. Those of you joining us for the first time here, go ahead, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, become part of the WagerTalk TV family, as you will find nobody with more daily and weekly content of all the big games across all the sports like we do. Check them all out. And, of course, get notified by hitting that bell in the upper right-hand corner every time one of those videos gets posted. Kind of a must-have in your subscribe button on your YouTube account. So make us a part of it. We'd certainly appreciate it. Hit that like button as well, those joining us live here on this Wednesday as we get ready for not 1, not 2, but 3 best bets here. And we'll bring it back to the top. Double R1L. I was a little shocked here, Mel. I thought the extra board was somewhere in was coming with you, but nope. You're going from Big East to Big Ten here for a best bet. So tell the folks what you got rolling at WagerTalk and lay it out. Wisconsin, Michigan for us here tonight.
Going to look at a free college basketball play here on the early card at 7 Eastern tonight. Big Ten Network between Michigan and Wisconsin. Just a quick reminder, though, it's a huge college basketball card tonight, and I have been seeing it well over the last 30 days. Number 1 ranked 54 units won, 42-26, 61% the last 30 days at WagerTalk.com, and I've got 3 strong college basketball best bets going tonight. I made a 3-for-1 special. It's basically buy one and get the other 2 for just $2 each. That's how it works out if you want to try out tonight. But of course, if you want to win consistently and be like the clients who are up number 1 ranked 54 units the last 30 days, you might want to consider an all sports subscription. We have a 7-day college and pro basketball combo, instant $50 discount. We have the rest of February, 3.5 weeks for about $8.50 a day, instant $100 discount. Or the big boy, Super Bowl to Super Bowl, this Sunday through next year's Super Bowl, instant $800 discount. It's 365 days and nights for just over $3 a day. And if you sign up now, you get the next 4 days and nights, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, as an added bonus. So it's more than a year of service. No promo codes needed. All that information on my page, along with a bonus free play tonight for Wednesday, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. And I'm going to get to an additional game that I want to give you for free here, and that is Wisconsin minus the 5.5 at 7 Eastern. You know, I was on last call with Joe Ranieri on Saturday morning, and we talked about the Rutgers-Michigan game. And as you guys know, I don't like to try to catch falling knives, and Michigan is a falling knife, to say the least. This team started 3-0 straight up in ATS, and they've gone 3-16 against the spread since, and they've gone just 4-15 straight up in those games. Yet, I thought if you're going to try to catch that knife, maybe Saturday was the time to do it as a 4.5, 5-point favorite against Rutgers. And it was looking pretty good when they were up by 15. But as Michigan has done several times here in the past month or so, they blew another double-digit lead and lost outright. You know, two ways to look at it. They're good enough to be up by double digits against several teams, Minnesota, Iowa, Penn State, Rutgers, but they've blown all those games. That's how bad they are defensively. And now they're facing a very good defensive Wisconsin team. And the key to this game is that Wisconsin will not overlook Michigan. Not only are they coming off the loss against Purdue on Sunday, but they're also coming off a loss at Nebraska last Thursday, which I thought was a flat spot for Wisconsin. In fact, we had a strong best bet on Nebraska against Wisconsin last Thursday. I thought Wisconsin would play better against Purdue. They came up a little bit short in what was a pretty close game throughout. I look for the bounce back tonight. And they just can't trust Michigan right now. I don't think they necessarily have quit on the season, but one of the best teams in the country in a focus spot, laying a short number. Take a look at Wisconsin minus the 5.5 at 7 Eastern. And don't forget, 3 strong best bets tonight. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com, and get there quicker with shortcut WT.buzz/SM.
Yeah, I got that written down. It's a automatic fade of whatever the hell the second half line is in Michigan games, and just fade them and cash it, and don't even think about it. You don't even got to watch it. Just know that when it goes to the break, you are good to go in the second half with fading them. Brian Leonard in the house here. Brian, I can count on to absolutely go to the value on the extra slate. So we certainly appreciate that. I know you got to be excited to get the NHL back after that little whatever the hell that was over the weekend. Was it a game? Was it I don't know what it is with the NHL anymore. But tell the folks what you got rolling at Wager Talk and break down Florida Gulf Coast Eastern Kentucky for us.
Yeah, I figured nobody's here to bet on the little game, so I'll take advantage of that in that regard. Yeah, it's coming out of the All-Star break, obviously, for the NHL. I swept the board yesterday, including big underdog winners on the Philadelphia Flyers at plus 180 on the money line and the Vegas Golden Knights at plus 135 on the money line. One of the few cappers we have that specializes in underdogs in the NHL, and it's been very good once again. Dave Koken and I have been switching back and forth, number 1, number 2, since Wager Talk has started here in the NHL. Dave's more of a favorite player. I'm more of an underdog player. I believe we've got a package out there right now where you can grab both of us for one low price. If it's no longer there, call the office. They'll get you set up. They'll honor that for you. I also have 5 plays in college basketball today, and this is one of them. The free play I gave out earlier was my free play on the site in Villanova. This is one of my paid plays for today. We've got that up for only $19. Get all of our 5 best bets in college basketball today. But I'll head to the added board here. Florida Gulf Coast at Eastern Kentucky. Gulf Coast has been pretty good to us so far this year. I don't think we've lost on them yet this year. Let's look to continue that. The records show that the Eagles are only 2-8 straight up on the road this season, but you've got to break it down a little bit more on how they played lately. Closer look shows the team is getting much better as the season unfolds when you go on the road. Since December 16th, away from home, they lost by 5, 3, 3, 1, and won by 23. Current line on this game is 7, so they've been able to stick in with better teams. I think they do that again here. Overall, the Eagles are on a 7-5 run. You have to mention their defense when you're playing the Eagles. They're not very good defensively. The effective field goal percentage on the road, 53.8. That's always a concern. Their team likes to get up and down the court, so defense is not their strong suit. But if you take a look at the last 3 opponents they've faced, they've only given up less than 69 or less points in each one of those games. So they're picking it up a little bit defensively. Eastern Kentucky, 12-10 on the season, but they've been really hot as of late. Winning 8 of 9 coming into this contest, all in league play. They're 8-1 in the Atlantic Sun Conference. And they do have a road game at Stetson on deck. The Hatters of Stetson 6-3 in league play, and like Eastern Kentucky, are playing very good basketball. So I think Eastern Kentucky may overlook Florida Gulf Coast here. At least that's what the lines, the early bettors have done. They bet this game down 2 points. It's down to 7 now, opened at 9. My line is 5, so I still think we have plenty of value here on playing the dog, especially as I mentioned. They've been covering these road games. They've been keeping them close. They haven't gotten the wins, so that's good for us. When the public overlooks teams like that, that's what we could take advantage of. As I mentioned, this is a flat spot for the host. Smart money's coming in on the road team, and I think Florida Gulf Coast will take this to the wire. I like this team, like the way they're playing, and I think because of the way they played on the road so far this year, we're getting more points than what we need. We'll take the 7. I don't think we even need 7.
Love it. And you're not alone with that, because our good friends at the Gold Sheet are also all over that game here tonight. So great minds think alike. And they also pointed out that 3 of their 5 conference losses have come by 3 points or less. So this is a team that does not lose in conference by margin. So not only does Brian Leonard like it for the show, but our friends from the Gold Sheet, and this is a great write-up, guys. I would encourage you to head over to goldsheet.com and check it out. Some great information there about these teams. And yes, I may be on the Hatters against Belmont tonight, but that's a conversation for a different time. Thank you for bringing that up, Brian Leonard. All right, let's go, Vino. I know for a fact there's got to be an over somewhere in this show for us here. You gave me first half. Where are you going to go for a best bet here tonight on a loaded slate in college basketball?
Well, let's say this, Joe. I'm not going to hate anybody who plays over in this game I'm about to talk about, but far be it from me, although he did reach a little lower level than I'm going to, far be it from me to let Brian Leonard be the only guy not to talk about Power 5 conference basketball here. I'm going to go to the Murray State Belmont game.
Ooh.
Of course, every time I talk about Belmont, I get a little, oh, you're just a homer type of guy. But my oldest went to Belmont, know a little bit about Belmont, and been waiting for quite a while here, Joe, for the return of their star guard, Jacoby Gillespie, who was out for 8 games. And, for those who don't know a lot about the MVC and Belmont in particular, Gillespie's a guy who's not just their best player, and he's top 5 candidate conference player of the year to start the season. This is a league that includes Indiana State and Drake, who bring back really good players. But Gillespie's that important to this team. They somehow hung in there during his absence and went 3-5 straight up, but they've got some ground to make up. They stuck him in Saturday against Missouri State. They were on the road. He did not start. He did play 26 minutes. He went 6 of 12 from the field, hit one of his 2 3-pointers, wound up with 15 points, which is actually a pretty nice start. Shows that he's back and ready to play some minutes. 26 out of 40 is a pretty good number, and shot the ball 50%. So this team is already number 42 in the nation in effective field goal percentage, and they've missed him for 8 games. You have to imagine that they get better offensively. An already good offensive team gets much better, the type of thing we expect out of Belmont here. And they've got some ground to make up in this league. They're in a 3-way tie right now at 5-7. It's only 2 games behind the number 4 seed at this point, which is Southern Illinois. As I mentioned, they did hang around without Gillespie and went 3-5 straight up. The MVC, if you think Indiana State can make the tourney without winning the conference tournament, then it could be a 2-bid league, but I'm not so sure. We'll see if Indiana State can pull that off. They've been really good this year. But there's a shot for 2 teams to get in there if, in fact, Indiana State makes it. And this month of February for these smaller conference teams, I think their conference tournament starts maybe March 1st or right at the end of February here. 3 weeks to really get the job done here for Belmont. It could start tonight. Murray State, on the other hand, they haven't really been the team that they were in the Ohio Valley days and now into the Missouri Valley. Overall, 9-14. That 9-14, you got to take with a little bit of grain of salt because they played a difficult non-conference, but they're just not scoring any points offensively. You know, they get a big win on the road against Northern Iowa on Saturday. They're 6-point underdogs. They win straight up. Prior to that game, they had been 0-4 on an 0-4 straight up run and a 1-5 overall straight up run. In those 6 games where they went 1-5, they only got more than 60 points one time. And so you're not going to beat Belmont by hanging around 60. You better get to 75 or so against them. Belmont's defense, you know, a little bit accommodating so you can get over 60 against them. But to me, this is a case where Murray State, which sits number 268 in the nation, shooting twos, 279 in the nation, shooting threes, might not have enough firepower, even though their defense is really good, might not have enough firepower to outscore Belmont on Belmont's home floor. By the way, a court that they used to call the Birdcage before Rick Byrd stepped down as head coach. The Murray State team has had 2 cracks at playing 2 of the better offenses in the league. 2 of the 3 best offenses belong to Bradley and Indiana State. Murray State couldn't keep up with those 2. 72-63, they lose. 71-63, they lose. 1 home, 1 away. It just kind of reminds me of what's going to happen here, or makes me think of what's going to happen here with Belmont. Belmont, obviously one of the top 4 offenses inside this league. It's a rivalry game. The Ohio Valley days go back to John Morant against Belmont. And so there'll be some excitement in the building, although Belmont never really fills that building. There'll be some excitement in there, especially with Jacoby's first home game back in uniform for this team. The price was cheap, Joe. It opened 1. Bettors got to it, made it 2.5, but I still feel like 2.5 is not enough. I think Belmont can win this game by 5+. So it's going to be my best bet for the show. Belmont minus 2.5 over Murray State.
All right, rolling with Belmont here, and the market seems to agree here as that continues to rise. Once again, we can recap it for you for those just entirely too lazy to actually listen to the breakdowns. We do have Rob Vino with Belmont laying that 2.5 here tonight at home, while Brian Leonard brings his extra board game with us, and Florida Gulf Coast +7 here tonight. Our friends from the Gold Sheet concur with that. Grab those points here, guys, while you can with them. While Merrill, he went to the Big Ten and says expect Wisconsin to win by margin. Merrill also, to his credit, nailed Kentucky winning by margin on yesterday's show, and they did just that. So looking to make it 2 for 2 here tonight. And again, if you guys want, head over to WagerTalk.com. You heard Steve talk about the rest of February now. Opportunities, guys, to partner up for what, about $9 a day. You can't go wrong right now. Steve Merrill, Brian Leonard, Rob Vino. Head over to their pages now at WagerTalk.com. It is, needless to say, a huge weekend in the world of sports, and these guys have got you covered, and so do we. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit that like button, those of you that joined us, and get ready. We've got much more to get to still, not only today, but of course, right through to the weekend and the big game coming up. Nobody does it quite like we do here at Wager Talk TV. On behalf of these guys, we appreciate you hanging with us. Come back and join us again tomorrow for another live edition of the College Basketball Tip-Off Show. Good luck.